everyone, this is Jiafeng Anchen Un, and today we'll be talking about the Yun country-based course case project. In this presentation, we will be talking about 4 parts. They are introduction, the plaintiff and defendant arguments, theoretical references, and other perspectives.
Hi, I'm Jiafeng, and I will start with the case introduction. First of all, I will talk about the related laws. The New Brunswick Human Rights Acts, the complaint against the school board was located under the Section 551 of the New Brunswick Human Rights Courts. Its section reads, no person, directly or indirectly, alone or with other, by himself or by the interpretation of people shall, Part A, then to any person or class of person with respect to any accommodation, service, or facilities available to the public, or Part B, discriminate against any person or class of persons with respect to any accommodation, service, or facility available to the public because of race, color, religion, national origin, and ancestry, place of origin, age, physical disability, mental disability, material state, sexual orientation, or sex. The second part is Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms. First one is the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedom guarantees the right and freedom set out in the subject only to such reasonable limited prescribed by law as can be demonstrably justifies a free and democratic society. So the second part is everyone has following fundamental freedom. Part A, freedom of conscience and religion. Part B is freedom to thought, belief, opinion, and expression, include freedom of the press and other media of communication. First, and then I will introduction of this case. This case happened in Canada, New Brunswick, between teacher Rose and New Brunswick School District number 15. The case summary. Firstly, during his off-duty hour, Teacher Rose made anti-Semitic remarks about Josh and published a brochure about it. Second part is, after receiving a report from Josh's parents, the New Brunswick Human Rights Commission concluded that Rose had violated Canadian human rights act and request that Rose remove from his teaching position. Thirdly, Rose argued that the court decision violated his right of free expression, so he filed an appeal. Firstly, the tribunal determined that the Section 2D did not satisfy the less harm that overturned the penalty under the Canadian Charter of Right and Freedom. Finally, the tribunal decided discretionary Rose removing his from office under Section 2A, 2B, and 2C of the order. The decision given by the Board of Inquiry, Part A, immediately placed Rose on leave absent without pay for a period of 18 months. Part B, appoint Rose as non-teaching position if a non-teaching position become available in school district number 15 for which Rose is qualified. Part C, terminate his employment at the end of the 18 months, leaving absent without pay if in the interim he has not been offered an upcited no teaching position. Part D, terminate Rose's employment with the school board immediately if at any time during 18 months, leaving the absent or of at any time during his employment in a non-teaching position. In the final
verdict, the Supreme Court decided that the Human Rights Board of Inquiry was right, that keeping Rose employed as a teacher amounted to discrimination against a group of people. But Rose could be employed as a non-teacher, such as a job in a board office or a librarian teacher where he doesn't work with the students in the school system. And in fact, in reality, Rose, after he was fired by a teacher's position, he did find a job as a librarian in this school. And the court agreed that the Board of Inquiry order infringed on Rose's expression and religion, but that this was a reasonable limit that could be justified. As a result, the court determined that Rose's conviction was governed by the section A, 2A, 2B, and 2C of the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedom, and that the restrictions on his teaching position 2D violated Rose's right to free expression and were thus overturned under the doctrine of least harm. So basically, the plaintiff, Rose, wants to avoid all punishment through free speech, which is his right. And the defendant wants to keep all the punishment. So in the plaintiff arguments, we can conclude that there's 3 points. First of all, Rose's rights under the Human Rights Act have been violated in that he is refused the right to express freely his religious opinions. There was no evidence that any of the students at the school had been adversely affected by Rose's writing or were influenced by them, nor that Rose ever committed any act of discrimination. In this context, it is pointed out that there were no Jewish students in Rose's class. Secondly, there is no rational connection between expressing a discriminatory religious opinion, such as this religion is true and that is false, and an act of discrimination, for example, treating someone differently because of religion. In this regard, it is admitted that Rose's opinions are sincere than of a religious character, opposing the philosophy of Judaism, since he feels that Christianity is under attack from Zionist interest. An employee's conscience and religion expression be subject to state security or employee regulation in their off-duty time would make religious freedom meaningless. Lastly, Rose claims that his rights under the Human Rights Act have been violated in that he is refused the right to express freely his religious opinion. And the defendant argues for 3 points as well. First of all, for the punishment to Rose, the section 2A, B, and C of the order, which relates Rose's removal from his teaching position, are reasonable related to the objectives of the order. And secondly, the sections 2A, B, and C of the order are made according to the charter and are properly within the jurisdiction of the board. Lastly, section 2D of the order should be served from the remainder of the order because it does not constitute a valid violation of the status, and this is therefore beyond the jurisdiction of the commission.
In the theoretical reference, firstly, I will talk about the freedom of expression and legal policy. Discuss the prediction for the teacher freedom of expression, trust in teacher. Teacher's free expression is linked to legal policy. The Constitution expresses the participant and the laws and execute under the Constitution, interpret the Constitution's intent. Teachers' professional suit is prohibition on the discriminatory speech by teachers. Teachers handling of the sensitive topic, and whether teachers should engage the political advocacy of all the factors of consider. When discussing their freedom of expression, the collective interest must be limit teachers' freedom of expression in some ways. In the second part, I will discuss about individual and group. Firstly, the freedom of expression is a right to exist, though have question as a demonstrate right. Freedom of expression thus requires equally, and no one has thoroughly discussed in the consequence of the free expression. Secondly, balanced community and freedom of expression. Most Canadians believe that some form of free speech regulation is required for the sake of community harmony. The protection will enable the group and the inherently harmful the consequence of the obscene speech. Third part is freedom to speech or in identity politics. Currently, much of the discussion of freedom of expression is centered in the university, but much of the academic output is focused on the politics of the identity in today's society rather than the nature of the freedom of the expression. The final part is multicultural theme and freedom of expression. Multicultural theme is core value in Canada, and all race and the religions are largely protected. As a result, if freedom of expression is not rejected, well, some group of people will bond to the target. The third part is silencing and freedom of speech in UK university. In the part one, I will discuss about the conflicting outcome. In the study of the expression in UK, conflict result is emergent, with some studies arguing that freedom of expression is unimportant in UK university, and that due to the government's prevent duty, freedom of expression is related research in under violate. The second part is academic protect speech. Academic freedom and the free expression are protected in UK university. Academic have freedom to express, freedom to publish their funding without interference from any organization or institution. Students' freedom of expression is also protected as their academic free in their research. Visitor trip will not cancelled as a result of what they say. Furthermore, for an open discussion promote the truth, and the society must tolerate with some offenses speech in order to explore the truth. The third part is silencing. Silencing as from this turn race is not harmful. Active evolutionary silence is powerful tool for discouraging harmful behavior. If a speaker's speech unpopular, others will take imperative silence to ensure that the harm caused by the speech is not amplified, which is one way limited academic freedom. And thanks to the Equality Act on the prevent duty, permissive silence does not infringe on the free of speech other. The final part is the challenge. In currently to freedom, free of expression is whether it is tailored in higher education. The manager in which freedom of expression is restrained determines whether it is actually theory or challenge. First, the vast majority of incidents of the permissive silence are justified, and there are some critical students who, in some cases, exaggerate the public fear of free expression.
So the last part will be 3 other perspectives among this case. As this case has happened in the late 20th century, so there are a lot of people focused on this case because it is the first case that shows that teachers' freedom of speech has been questioned. So the CGC, which is the Canadian Jewish Congress, the spokesman, Joseph Wilder, says that teachers must not be perceived by children or parents as a racist or hate-filled if they are properly to fulfill their function as a positive influence and role model in the classroom. So basically, he talks about that if you are a teacher, even if it is your off-duty time, you are still a teacher, you are still a model to the students and the parents. So if you have some didn't speak properly, it may affect the students and parents. It may affect the environment. And Dr. Jewish Elazarel, a retired seminary teacher and Orthodox Jew living in New Brunswick, she filed the complaints against Rose with the local Royal Canadian Mounted Police, asking that Rose be charged under Section 28 and 281.2 of the Criminal Code. In 1987, that the terms of willful and hatred in the Criminal Code were too numerous to allow for a strong enough case. So the Dr. Julius insists that as Rose said that he's just saying some willful words to the Jewish and he's doing that in the off-duty time. But Dr. Julius pointed out that the word willful and hated in the criminal code were also the noblest to allow for a strong enough case. And the third person is the Danny Chapiter, who is a college manager of intake and hearings. When he found out this case, he was also doing a report with the case whether the teacher should have the freedom of speech in their off-duty time. And he pointed out that if you are intoxicated on a weekend, a physical fight breaks out and police are called, a parent trusting a child to your care may be concerned. When conduct bleeds into a community space in teachers entrusted with students, it can become an issue of professional misconduct. He said that teachers are role models in a community. The position they hold is central to students in their case. It is important that high standards are upheld on and off duty. Off-duty conducts become important when it determines the public's confidence in the teacher or the professional as a whole. So these are the references we found for the presentation. And
at last, we have some question for you. Do you think teachers' right to speak freely is limited? The second question is that what are the educational implication of teachers' freedom of expression being limited? The last question is that as teachers, we need to use our words to help our students grow, but we also need to make sure our words are right. So how we balance this? Thank you for your watching.